Greetings friends, this is James in the Asato Dojo in Okinawa. We're going to be making some Chiishi today. So Chiishi are traditional training tools for Okinawa karate. We use them in hojo, which is a traditional exercise to make you stronger, to make your karate better. Basically they're made of concrete with wooden handles. And so today we've prepped all the materials that we need in order to make some Chiishi. We're going to make some smaller ones first and then make some bigger ones. To make Chiishi, it's pretty simple. You need concrete, which you can make from mortar and stones over here. Sometimes you can get just pre-mixed concrete in a bag. That works perfectly fine too. We're going to mix up a little bit here in the trough, the mortar, stones and water, obviously. We want to try and make it not too wet so that it cures and dries fairly quickly. We also want to make sure that we get all the bubbles out of it, air bubbles out of it, so that it dries hopefully without any cracks. Now, what's important when you're making Chiishi is that you prepare your mold and your handle. So, there are a variety of handles here. These things look pretty brutal, but this is what's going to go into the concrete. So, we take a mold, in this case, really simple, cheap plastic mold. That makes it an ideal mold for making Chiishi. You want something that's a little bit flexible, so that when you come to take it out, it's easy enough to get out. Some people use metal cans, but sometimes you have to end up cutting those off, particularly if they have ribs in them, because the concrete will fill them and obviously you can't pull it out very easily. A smooth plastic container like this, with a little bit of flex, is perfect. It'll come off really easily. Okay. And what we're going to do is, in this case, for this one, we're going to pretty much fill it up with concrete, and then we're going to suspend the handle inside it. So not right down to the bottom, because if you do that, the end will poke out of the concrete when you take out the mold, and it will potentially crack from there. It's going to go about halfway to 2/3 in, and then we're going to set up a frame above it to hold it in place until it dries. And you want to leave it there for about 24 hours at least to let the concrete harden. We also need to put a screw or a bolt or a couple of nails in the end of the handle to give something for the concrete to grip onto. If you don't do that, there's a chance that the handle will just slip out of the concrete afterwards. And the last thing you want when you're swinging Chiishi around your head is for this lump of concrete to go flying off somewhere else. Right? So, there's your mold. There's the handle prepared, very simple. These handles, by the way, I bought from the local hardware store. These are used as replacement handles for garden tools here. Very cheap, a few hundred yen to buy, and you've got a decent handle there. But if you want to, you can go even more DIY and just get yourself a cheap broom. So again, these came from the hardware store. These are the cheapest ones I could find, a couple of hundred yen. But I'm not buying them for the broom, I'm buying them for the handle. So out of this length here, I reckon I can get 2 or 3 decent Chiishi handles. This is smaller and lighter, so this will be great for the smaller Chiishi that I want to make today, which we can use for our beginners and even for our kids' classes as well to practice hojo. Okay, so that's us all set up and ready to go. Next thing to do is to crack open the mortar and the rocks and start making some concrete. So we're going to do that, and then we'll come back to you again. So we'll try and get these handles in the center of the concrete, obviously, so the Chiishi is well balanced. If it's off to one side, then it'll be heavier on one side than the other. You want to try and get the handle relatively vertical to the Chiishi as well. Makes less of a difference if the handle is slightly at an angle to the base of the Chiishi when you're actually picking up and swinging it, but if it's way off, then again it upsets the kind of the center of balance for the Chiishi. There'll be more weight on one side than the other, and that'll make it difficult to move around. So what we're going to do here is use cable ties to hold the handle of the frame where we want it. You can use tape or anything to try and fix it in. Something that's just going to hold well for 24 hours. I happen to have lots of cable ties here, so I'm going to use those. Basically, what I'm going to do is, as I said before, I want to pick the handle up so that it's not actually resting right on the base of the bucket or the mold, because then it will potentially poke through or come through the top of the Chiishi, which we don't want. So I'm going to pick it up a little bit and then secure it like that to the frame. So the first two look good. Have a look down at those. You can see that the handles are more or less straight and more or less centered. That was not quite centered, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's better. So more or less vertical, centered, and straight. The other thing that you want to do though is you want to try and give them a little tap to try and get any bubbles, air bubbles in the concrete to rise up out of the concrete. I was tapping them earlier on, so I think I got most of the bubbles out, and when you move them around, that movement naturally sort of brings bubbles to the top as well. But it's not a bad idea, like they do when they're laying concrete for a path or a wall, is to tap the concrete to try and get the bubbles to work their way up through the stones in the concrete and come out to the top. So I'm going to give them just a very light tap, just a vibration, just to try and get any extra bubbles out. Doing this, I'm just going to be aware that the movement might move the handle around relatively a little bit, so I'll just make sure that the handle ends up. So there are 1 or 2 bubbles coming up, which is good. we've made 4 smaller size Chiishi there. We've made 2 medium-sized ones there. They're looking good, curing nicely. We've got some nice strong hammer handles in there. And now we're using the ducky buckets. The ducky buckets are a traditional Okinawan Chiishi making tool. Every dojo has ducky buckets. If you haven't seen them, it's only because there's something of a secret in Okinawa. But I'm proud to reveal today that if you're making Chiishi, you really do need to get yourself some ducky buckets. And these will indeed produce the best Chiishi. So here we are, just making our ducky bucket large size Chiishi. And looks like we're just about out of concrete. We've just about got the right amount. We're gonna even these 2 out, and I think we'll get 2 decent sized Chiishi out of these. Okay, looking good. Okay, so our Chiishi are set hard now. They've been here for 24 hours, and we're just popping them out of the molds. See, when they come out of the molds, they come out lovely and clean and shiny. These molds, simply just a bowl, plastic mixing bowl, work pretty well. You just have to pop them out. Out they come. Beautifully smooth and not too badly balanced. Okay. So what we're going to do is then the next stage will be to put some paint on these, which we'll do in a couple of days' time. And then we'll put this all together. You see the whole thing into it. These are the small ones that we made, by the way. Came out really nice. Just the right shape and weight for beginners or kids to use. So I'm really happy with those. Here we go. The kids are doing a fantastic job of painting the Chiishi here. They've done an amazing job here. Fantastic colours. And they're getting really good at it.